Welcome back, everybody, to the Silent Hill Ascension post show. I've changed Lila into Jacob, but I'm still Eduardo. At least I haven't been affected. How are you doing, Jacob?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing? Now, Jacob, we got an update essentially today, right? The momentum wheel just got added. Some of our audience members actually noticed that, so that's a change in how the decisions screen works. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did the thing. I think it was like a month ago I was saying we were going to be working on that, and then we went on to bug fixing for a while, but it's up there. It's buggy as shit. I was like literally before the show went live, I was in a call with the team. I'm like, this isn't working. That needs to change. This needs to change. We'll fix it in the next couple of days. Like, it's super hard to see tiny little boxes to see all the choices. And I was like, you can't tell the difference between which one is live and which one's not. And like, one is white, one is aqua. No, they both look same. We'll fix all those things.
So good news, new feature. Cool. Bad news needs a bit of tinkering in the lab. So at least
we do everything live. Everything live here.
That's fair. I mean, at least it's reassuring, I think, for our audience. You know, it's like kind of like we're not presuming things are perfect. Like, no, we gotta cook that one needs to go in the oven a bit. But a little bit more of like it feels more alive, I guess, is the idea, right?
Is the idea, and we're tweaking the way that it works. So the way it works today isn't necessarily how it works tomorrow, but it's a select kind of feed of some of the activity that's occurring. And we're going to test how fast it takes you to spin the wheel. So I've set it a little bit low right now. Like, you should spin the wheel with a couple of people, and it should start to spin faster and faster. But the intent here is spin the wheel, then do a rally, and then you're going to get rally bonuses and spin bonuses. And, you'll be able to quickly get choices that are far behind back up, because we want to start to see more and more choices where things are more even rather than blowouts, and that also relates to the decision to remove those fate labels.
Yeah. By the way, Jacob, we talked about this while we were preparing, but our audience is really asking about this now, so I think this is a good time to address it. We're going to address it a bit later, audience, but I think you're warm on it. So it was like about the full bar and influence points. I believe that's in the endure scenes, Jacob.
You're talking about the way in which the endure portion works?
Yes.
So the first interactions you do on any endure sequence are going to wildly swing your U meter, because you've only had one interaction. So if you've got one interaction at the start and it's a swipe, you've got 100% on your U meter. The more that you interact and the more that you fail, the more it's going to take your U meter a lot more to interact. And by the way, if you're really far ahead, like you've gotten a whole bunch perfect and then you miss a few at the end, you're not going to see your U meter really swing very much, because at that point you've accumulated so many points that it's hard for it to swing one way or the other. So at the beginning, wild swings. In the middle, smaller swings. Toward the end, very few swings. It's the way that it's supposed to work. It's the way that it's designed. It's the same thing with the community meter. It shouldn't swing as wildly later on as it does. And so, yes, at the beginning, you hit one thing perfectly, you're going to get it 100%.
All right. I hope for you, the audience, this was a decent explanation, and it helps you understand on the endurance scenes a bit more. I wanted to kind of segue into a decision that opened today, because that's actually going to be our first interview topic, so to speak, with Jacob here. So the thing was here, a production team is going to put it up on screen. That's the graphic opening this day. Again, this is shuffled. So here we have that, how will Rachel address her remaining loyalists? And we have say Krista's deranged, tell them to save themselves, or support Krista. Now, one of the interesting things, Jacob, is before we kind of told people, this is the redemption option, this is suffering option, this is the damnation option. Not quite now. So there's a story, though, behind that.
Yeah. So when we were first working on the project, there was a big discussion about what does it mean to participate in the choice and not have your choice be selected. And there was this discussion internally about, well, it feels bad if you spent a bunch of points on something and then that wasn't what got picked. And in specific, like if it leads you down a direction, especially because you're spending a lot of time in the application, you're spending points that you care about, and you don't have the individual ability necessarily to influence if somebody else goes and puts a huge ton on something else, it feels bad. So we should tell the audience what path this is going down, and at least this way they know that they're moving in one direction or another. It's going to make their kind of use of these points more valid, more visible. The other thing, another important reason we did it was we believed, based off of our previous products like Walking Dead, that having the audience cheer for one thing and boo against another thing was really important. That whole wrestling analogy was one that I used in a lot of interviews leading up to Ascension, as well as for Walking Dead and others. We want to have our heels and our faces. And in Walking Dead, it was very clear how to do the factionalization, because we had you as an audience either join the village or join the plant. But in Silent Hill, how do you create factions? Like, how do you create audiences to cheer for one thing or another? And so we created the fate system, and we thought by factionalizing these different choices that we would create kind of 3 different ways for you to go around. But it was very clear almost from the beginning that the redemption faction was incredibly strong, and it was very hard for others against it. But my feeling as one of the people working on the project was, well, if that's what the audience wants, that's fine, right? Like that's what the audience chooses. That's what people are interested in, and so we need to be authentic to that. But there was this comment a couple of weeks ago, and I'll let production put that up on the screen, that really spoke to me, where somebody was referring to the group that was working toward redemption as the Redemption Whales. Now, I love all people who participate. I love Redemption faction and Suffering faction and Damnation faction equally, though I have a preference toward Damnation because it's a much more interesting story outcome. But I saw that and I thought, okay, the faction systems are working too well. There is one that is dominating. It's not even anymore. And so let's experiment. So the next day, like literally a couple hours later, when that happened, I was on a flight back from Japan, and I just wrote when I landed in Slack, like, what would it take to remove the labels? How hard is this? Because, we're busy working on a ton of stuff, momentum wheel and bug fixing. And so my initial reaction was, I don't know what it's going to take to remove the fate labels. If it's quick and we can do it in a day or two, let's try it out and see if it works. If you're going to tell me it's going to be like 3 weeks worth of work, not do it. And very fast, I got a response from one of my devs, and they wrote, well, I think we can remove the labels and randomize it, within the span of a day or so. So great. We built it out on Monday. We tested it on Tuesday. We put it live on Wednesday. And that's how we like to do things. We're learning, we're experimenting, we're building with all of these products. And so I asked the audience, do you guys like the thing without the labels? And I do think that the reaction in general it's much more exciting and interesting. On the other hand, like I do feel like the chat is very self-selecting in terms of its feedback. I think that there's probably a large redemption faction that we are not hearing from. They could be in Facebook or they could be in Discord. And so I was asking about this at our Friday All Hands, if you recall. I was like, where is the redemption faction? Because they're not pushing back here. And I find that lack of feedback curious. So if you are part of that redemption faction, feel free to write to me and give me your thoughts on the no labels, because we can literally flip a switch and put it back on in 1 second. But for now, we're gonna keep that going, and these are all good lessons for us for our next titles. We're learning a ton about how audiences interact with these products. If you're not aware, or maybe you are aware, we've got 2 other series coming out. We haven't announced the dates for them, but we're working on them now. One with Borderlands franchise with Gearbox. Got the Holy Broadcast Center mug here. That's Borderlands Echo Vision Live, and we've got DC Heroes United with DC. This is the animated series Batmobile. We've just gotten approval for our own Batmobile, which we're very excited for. But we're learning how to build these products better based off of all of the audience feedback. And we're going to completely redesign how we do decisions for the next title, literally just based off of how you're liking these, how we're experimenting with it, how we're learning from it.
Yeah. No, thank you, Jacob, and as well. I'll shout out Drew, who came up, and that was a big thing. So I saw also the audience really excited about audience member that keeps coming back up, evening after evening. So, we should shout out the people who are here and who kind of let us know their feedback and you are transforming literally your own experience. That was a core tenet of kind of what Silent Hill Ascension was about, but it was maybe more than you bargained for at home. Now,
but that's
Jacob,
all comes back to like the Twitch kind of roots of everything that we're doing, right? We were deeply inspired by Twitch Plays Pokemon. We're deeply inspired by the way in which streamers and their audiences relate. Streamers and their audiences create this relationship where one thing affects the other, and that was very intentional. We've had users who have written their own fan songs on YouTube. Thank you for that. I said I was going to mention that today. And we're grateful for that audience interaction, participation, and feedback. You've literally seen yourselves making the product better, and that's all the goal here. Like we don't necessarily know everything. And by the way, you're literally making the animation because the scenes that you see today didn't exist 3 weeks ago. Didn't exist. Like we wrote the stuff and we recorded the voice acting, but we're animating these things as we go along. And we're changing and improving and affecting it because you guys are telling us we like one thing, we don't like another thing. And we're making changes. Like the user avatars, we're always the most awkward parts of the screens. Like they come off, they feel like really weird and jarring. And so we got rid of a ton of those. We still have some. You still have cameo contests. You still appear in Endure. But like instead of like 2 or 3 a day, we've reduced that because you've told us that that's, what you want. And then we've focused that on the cinematics instead. And so we are changing our pipelines as you guys are giving us that feedback.
No, and thank you for that insight. I know the audience is really loving it. And I'll give you as well an update, Jacob, because I get to watch this as you talk, but it's rougher for you. Like, I'm actually getting mixed feedback from, so to speak, the Redemption, the people who voted Redemption. Some like the no labels. Some, feel like, oh, no, I was working towards the good ending and you removed that from me. Why? Like, I like that there's a balance, and that makes sense, right? When you're at home, like, it's normal for those who don't like the change that you don't like it. You're valid, and it's also valid for the people who do like the change about it. We hope that if you don't like it, that at least you're still part of the experience. You still enjoy what's going on, just on a bit of a different take as things progress. Because Ascension literally is evolving over time.
Look, that was what I wanted to hear. I knew there had to be a faction that wasn't enthusiastic for that change because I had assumed when we originally built it that would be the case, that you'd find a faction that you'd go for and you'd want to go for what you consider to be the quote unquote good ending. And so I'm glad to see that feedback because I can use it in our internal discussions of, yes, actually these people do exist and they may not be the most vocal in the chat, but now we're hearing it now that we ask about it. So thank you for that. Again, it's incredibly useful feedback for us.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure like as the show progresses, like things might stay, they might change as they do, but that's the thing, right? So like Jacob, Ascension's evolved a ton. Like what we had in November is not at all where we're at today.
Yep.
I think very clearly to our audience, very clearly to us working on the project. Kind of like the important part here is. We're talking about these lessons for the future, like, but what are some of the things that just happened straight up? Like, can we take stock of what happened these past couple of months there?
Yeah. So like the original animation pipeline was, we'd started it from zero. We had no idea how to properly use metahumans. We spent a year or two trying to make a lot of those initial scenes, and we did our best with it. But once we really got into the groove of it and we learned lessons over the course of that holiday break that we took in, December to January, we went and redid a whole bunch of the pipeline based off of the learnings of literally doing it live. And you can see the animation that we've got going in the last couple of weeks is way beyond and way better than what we had on launch night. And, we thank everybody for sticking around for us as we've learned through that process. And we're very, very happy with the quality of the animation that we're getting. Again, we're building like 20 hours because you haven't seen all the branches, right, of animation in this. It's more than that was in Final Fantasy 16. And we're building it live, and we're building it in response to audience choices, which is not a thing that's ever done before. And it's hard. And I don't think at the start, people appreciated the extent to which we were literally building these things with audience kind of feedback in mind, but we've retooled it real quickly and we're learning from it real quickly. I'm real proud of how amazing the animation has gotten, the quality of the voice acting and everything else. And I think the teams have been doing an amazing job on that. And, this gets back to, again, it's like a culmination of a dream that we've been working on for a long time. So I'm wearing one of my Ascension shirts you can get from the merch store, but this year is also the 10-year anniversary of one of the subsidiaries that I ran, Shinra Technologies, is jacket that I'm wearing. And we had a long-term vision for how we thought that streaming was going to go and people would interact with streaming. And I was thinking about recently, because again, it's been 10 years since I started Shinra, about those days. And one of my partners working on it, one was Yoichi Wada, who was the longtime CEO of Square Enix. Another one was a guy named Tetsuji Iwasaki, who all the way back to like Bahamut Lagoon, working at Square, one of the main programmers on Final Fantasy Tactics, and also the head of network programming for Final Fantasy XI. And he told me a series of stories. Like one of them was, Sakaguchi-san, who's the creator of the Final Fantasy franchise, came to him, in the late 90s and was like, I want you to work on an MMO. And this was in the era of 28K baud modems. And he was like, I thought he was crazy, but he just told me to do it. And so I did it, and we built it and we tested it, and it took us several years to get it right, but we got there. But for him, it was all about the community. And for us, it's all about the community too. And what do I mean by that? He told me one time, Jacob, one of the greatest experiences I ever had was being invited to a wedding of two people who met in Final Fantasy XI. And I think back on that a long time. So, production, you can throw up that photo of when I was much thinner. But this is me and Square Enix's CEO, my longtime boss, Wada-san, and Iwasaki-san, working on game streaming a very long time ago. And a lot of what we do here at Genvid is, trying to fulfill a lot of the spirit and vision of what we've been thinking about the future of games is going to be for a very, very long time. And, we still have a long way to go, but we're very proud of the work that we've gotten to so far.
Yeah. No, thank you for that insight. So, by the way, the audience has been talking like there's been a lot of chatter here from our audience, which is great to watch, by the way. For it's entertaining for me. So if you think you're the ones enjoying the show from us, trust me, I'm enjoying more. Now, the thing is, they were talking a lot about season 2, so I don't want to really segue that way into the what if season and the planning, because there's expectations to be had. But I'll let you do it.
We're going to be starting What If when the main season ends. And the goal with What If is to fulfill the promise I made at the outset of the project. I've been very consistent about what we're trying to do here on Ascension. If you look back to my earliest discussions of it in the original Silent Hill transmission and things I wrote on Reset Era or things I wrote on Twitter back before I was being trolled by Nazis and I had to shut down a lot of the Twitter, it was pretty crazy back in November and October. I said that we were going to give the audience a chance to see the things that we had created that they hadn't seen before. So we're going to go more into this a little bit closer as we get into What If, but we have built a massive amount of footage. And so over the course of What If, you're going to unlock that footage. So you're going to be able to experience Ascension for a lot longer, because you're going to be able to each week unlock the scenes that you missed, including the, all the points that you've spent on these decisions have not gone to waste. They're going to be reopened. Any moments that you missed are going to be available again. And we'll get more into it a little bit later. What we are not going to be doing, just to be clear, we are not rerunning the simulation from the beginning. So we have filmed those scenes, but we have filmed hundreds and hundreds of scenes, which means that, as an example, you're not going to be able to re-kill Toby. You've killed him already. So we're going to turn the hope meter off. You're going to only see the outcome where he's alive at the end of it, right? We want to see the opposite. We want to see the things that we missed. And additionally, once you guys chose that Rachel should lose the eye, every scene that we filmed after that was with Rachel's eye lost. I can't go and refilm, 10 hours of footage again. So you're going to see the alternatives where other characters lost their eyes, but it's going to be consistent going forward, where those scenes that were filmed with their eye lost are going to be the ones filmed with their eye lost. But again, we'll get more into that as we go. Now, after we've started What If, many of our teams, as you're well aware of, Eduardo, have already transitioned on to getting ready for our next title launches. So you will have to wait. If we do more Silent Hill, it's going to have to be after we get to our next titles, because we have only a couple months after this to launch the next big one, and it's going to be very big. And we've got a killer writing team on it. We've learned a lot about voice acting and everything else. So we are a small team. We are a small company. We've got to get to the next thing we promised in our pipeline. But we love Ascension. We would love to do more. And so hopefully I've addressed most of the topics there. Any questions from the audience that I haven't addressed that we want to get into?
Let me check. Let's see. There was a lot of chatter on essentially, obviously, like the change to the will. And by the way, I do want to mention from the audience, there are some people that definitely wanted to back Redemption, and this I can address a bit. Fate and hope still exists over time, so the fact that you've backed Redemption this long does give you a lead. So it's not lost. The fate is still there.
It is a lot harder to guarantee redemption, but the redemption rates are so high already that it's also a lot harder for the other things to win against it. But what's kind of fun now is you get to guess which one's going to be redemption, and if you get the outcome right, that's good. But it makes the end game a bit more interesting, but you did spend the vast majority of the season pushing redemption to its absolute peak. So it is quite hard for it to radically change, but good luck. The whole point was to make things as interesting as possible.
Yeah. So other aspects I've seen, can living characters die and rerun or no death? Basically from what we've discussed, right? The timeline, so to speak, exists, but you get to see kind of off branches. That's the idea, I think, right?
You're going to see different branches that we didn't film. So as I said, we're not running the full simulation. So for example, if Toby's end scene, you're going to see the scene where he lives, but in the canon run, he is dead, right? And so everything that we filmed assumed that he was dead from that point in time. So you're seeing the weekly scenes that we filmed that are not the ones that aired. But they're, as I said, it's not rerunning the simulation. Rerunning the simulation would require thousands more videos that we didn't film from it. So, you won't get to see it continuous in the story, because the story is still going to call back to the main branch, but every single decision had multiple videos that didn't air, videos where characters lived, videos where characters didn't live, depending on what happened, videos where lines were different, the opposite scene to the Morgie, like what you guys saw. And so you're going to be able to unlock all of those scenes that we filmed that didn't make it to air.
A clerical question, but generally we'll probably answer these as we go along, but we can answer this one, I guess. Do our influence points transfer to What If?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Everything is the same, and the decisions are being reopened with the decision that one grayed out, but all the point totals that were there before still there. So, just consistently keeping that promise that every point that you've spent still has meaning inside of the product.
So we have, Jacob, are you amused at how we catch phrases like Morgie and Lottie Lod?
I love it. I think it's hilarious. I tell our board about it. Konami finds it very amusing too.
So there we go. You got your answer there, audience. So by the way, Valkyr 1 and a few others that really didn't like the label change. It's actually good that you're voicing it out. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll change or anything, but we get that feedback. It's important. So thank you for writing it. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll revert one way or another, but I just want to know that we see you.
Keep in mind, if there's enough of it, then we can change it back, right? It really depends on how strong those voices are, right? We're trying to maximize what's exciting for the majority of the audience here. And I do think that there is a silent but large group of people who like the labels and was pushing for redemption. That was really important to them. And I need to hear your voices. But if I don't hear those voices, I don't have the ability to have conversations with our team on what we should or should not be doing, because it just feels like overwhelmingly every change we make is positive, and that's not necessarily true.
Yeah. Magic Marbot was, will we be able to get more behind the scenes after the run? No, just quickly from me, you'll get more behind the scenes before the run. And but after the run, fair for you, Jacob.
Yep. And just before I forget, a couple of weeks ago, last time I was here on the stream, we unboxed this giant pyramid head thing. Speaking of behind the scenes stuff, Cataldi, who was here, is our COO, was like, Jacob, you didn't show what was inside the pyramid head. So here, more behind the scenes stuff, but this time it's inside a pyramid head. That's what it looks like. Sorry for the non sequitur, but I did it, Chris. You're welcome.
All right. So we have an audience member who wants to shout out customer support. I know that was a recurring theme from some audience members, so just wanted to showcase that recognition there. Will our accounts be reused in futures? So there's generally been a few questions about access to things like puzzles and the episodes and all that after the show kind of concludes its run. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. During What If, all of your account stuff, all of your moments, all of your decisions, all of your puzzles are still the same. It's literally like during that break period, and we're going to have new puzzles coming during the What If, so you can earn more points during it. So nothing changes there. You're all good. Now, I did see one user say that their account was having problems. If you can't log into your account, let our CS team know. If your account is deleted, you press the delete button at some point. And every 30 days, GDPR requires us to take everybody who's pressed the delete button and actually wipe their account. Like, that is a legal requirement for us to do if you press the delete button. We don't do it unless you press the delete button. Trust me, I don't want to be deleting people's accounts. It's important for us to keep them. So we only do it if that button was pressed. Now, if you have pressed that button and you want to get the account back, I don't know what I could do. But if you can point out your old account and your old email address and you had purchased a season pass on it and you want to have that reinstated, we can probably check those things because we have receipts for it. But once we delete the thing, European regulations requires us to remove it. Like, we actually have had users be like, I want to make sure, double check that you guys have actually deleted us per GDPR, or I'm going to file a complaint with blah, blah, blah. So we have to do it.
Yeah, and it gets done. So, all right. So this one I can probably answer because I'm more involved. Pre and post shows during What If. We're how should I put it? We want to do a show around What If. That's probably the best way to put it. We got something in mind, but I literally have a notepad where I wrote stuff down. So you'll have to wait. The secrets are within.
About it today. Yeah.
Give me time to put this into digital. But yes.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're doing 3 things concurrently here. Like, we are both live operating this show and planning for what happens during What If, which we still have to live operate, and planning for 2 other shows at the same time. And we are not a big team of people. Like, the fact that everything works, given the small number of QA, the small number of developers we have, it seems to me like a miracle, because you guys are used to, in this industry, having let's look at, Monopoly Go as an example. That game has done $2 billion in revenue, right? Amazing. 7 years of development. You know how many hundreds and hundreds of people Scopely has on staff? It's crazy. You look at these things and they look so simple, but they have had thousands of people working on it. They have QA teams of 50, 60 people. We don't have that. We are very small, frankly, and we're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. So we had a question on, will our accounts be gone next year or be used in new series? It's a little bit of no offense, Mr. Peaceless. It's a bit vague, but I think there's a question of perennity here, Jacob, if you want to address that.
If it's important to you guys, you can send us that feedback and let us know. We have not been thinking about it just from the perspective of what you do in Silent Hill doesn't feel like it should connect to what you do in DC or Borderlands. In other words, your avatar is not appropriate for those things, nor do any of the decisions that you've made on Fate or Hope. I think those are completely different designs and products. But if there are aspects of your account that are important to you that you would like to see in those products, let us know. Right now, we don't have an intent to shut the app down after What If concludes. So you should still be able to view your moments, view all the plastic clips, all that stuff stays online. There's no reason to shut it down. And it's not like Ascension.com is going to be used for Heroes United. So you're not being replaced by those other shows. We just have to move our production teams on to the next projects.
Yeah, it's not an or. It's just a sequential. I'm just going through here quickly. So people are asking me about Rally Cry, which I'll give me a second for that one. Okay, yeah. So apparently that's Turbo
I just
Bastard
mentioned.
stuff.
I said to him that I would bring up Rally Cry. I did it a couple of minutes ago. I said, thank you for that. We love seeing that stuff. Like, it makes me very happy to see the community care about the features and the products and the stuff that we've made. In an industry which very quickly turns toxic, it's great to see a community that's actually positive and reinforcing that positivity. I wish that we could have had more of that around the launch of the product, but we had to shut it down, as I mentioned before, due to like literal Nazi attacks and Discord streamer coordinated attacks and all sorts of other crazy stuff that was happening, because everybody saw that they could get like attention, and so all the attention hounds came and like outrage sells in this current cycle, right? And I think that the thing that damaged us the most was having to shut down chat for a month because the trolls came and were just awful. But once we got a community and a chat, I felt really good about that. I was really happy to see those fan base things, and of course, everybody working on the product views and talks about it and likes it and shares. And we are always sharing things at our weekly all hands inside of our Slack. We share every comment. We look at our support tickets. Like, we are a very community-oriented development team, which was harder to do at launch because we had a million things on fire and we had to deal with those attacks that I mentioned and the trolls and everything else. And that was a very significant distraction from doing real development, when you have to spend hours on calls trying to figure out how to integrate new chat filters and handle people who are trying to hack into your stuff. But that you expect it when you launched. We did expect it. It took about a month to really fix and resolve those things, but we've gotten better. And then what you've seen in the last few months is we've dedicated ourselves to fixing as many of those bugs as we can. So like that CS team and our development team getting those tickets in and getting that device data has been really, really important. We test across a variety of devices. We test across low-end devices, high-end devices. My phone is a old iPhone SE, right? I purposely pick low-end devices to play off of. But we can't get everything. And a lot of the problems end up being a specific chipset or a specific memory set. And so you guys are helping. As I said, I don't have 50 QA people here, but the feedback, the session data that you send us, we literally go and we look at those sessions. We try to emulate those devices with device emulators, find where those bugs out, and then as quickly as possible, crush them. Absolutely crush and squash every bug that we can.
Yeah, I did want to. They're like three things quickly, and these are from me. So one of them is Teshas. I'm going to get to your points because I did notice it. I want to make sure Jacob gets a record of it just in case, but I think there's not a problem there. But we'll address it. So quickly, the way the community transformed is interesting for me as a professional in the field. I'm actually trying to sort a talk together for conferences because the way the Silent Ascension community evolved is fascinating. But aside from that, I did want to also shout out Turbo Bastard for another reason, which is one of the things I really like is retro gaming, and archiving is a real challenge. And when we work in the field of live, archiving is a huge challenge. So the fact that these videos of these the hosted shows are live there, and for other people to see, I did want to shout that out. That's actually like really, really grateful for that. Now, Jacob, Tish asked his point. Just asked, like, they want a cameo contest but haven't been featured for a few days. I'm guessing that's fine. I'm just double checking.
If you've won a contest, you're usually featured coming up, but do you know whether it's an Endure feature or whether it's a story cameo feature? Because those are completely different cameo categories.
We can check. I'll make a note of the username.
Reach out to CS. They'll get you sorted out, because a story feature can take X number of days to week to result in a something being seen. And in the Endure features, unless you're watching Endure recordings, you may not see it because it's not happening every single time, right? You may be featured on a Thursday this week of that, or you may have missed yesterday. But reach out to CS teams; they'll tell you where your cameo appeared. If you won a contest, you were somewhere in the show. We'll get it to you.
Yeah. There was also somebody who won a cameo contest but said the video glitched near the end. I don't know what it is, but I know we tend to fix those in videos on demand usually.
Yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be a glitch in a story sequence, but that would definitely be in the VOD still. If you have a glitch during Endure and you want to get a clear Endure capture, let our CS teams know, because we can recreate it and export a video for you to have.
So that was for Bungalow. I was answering that. So also I've seen a lot of love for Turbo Bastard, obviously, I guess the shout out.
Good. Look, the work that the community does to change sentiment is important, not only for the franchise and for the product, but for us as a company. When we started, we have consumer sentiment ratings, and we use a consumer sentiment ratings company called Sprout, which is just an industry company that it's not us, just standard, and they do Silent Hill Ascension searches. And at launch, we get tremendous amount of trolls and negative press, and we start with a 33% sentiment rating. By January, 59%, February, 76%, and then as of last week, we were seeing an 87% positive sentiment rating, and that's due to the community, and the community self-reinforcing and calling people in, and YouTubers. Somebody wrote a video saying Silent Hill Ascension is a fever dream and I need to tell people about it. That was hilarious. I love that video. I sent it to our board. Those kind of things are great. Like, we want to see people talk about it positively and have a good experience. And that's also why the CS teams work so hard. Like, we made changes about a month and a half ago to how we were doing and operating customer service, where I got much more deeply involved. You guys probably saw it. And you probably saw it because at that point in time, we had stabilized enough of the app where I could put my eyes on it. But as my team here is well aware, I look at every single report that comes in and every single, feedback. And I ask our dev team, when are we going to fix this? What are we doing about this? How are we trying to make the experience better? Because that is what you should do. That is what I would want as a user. And that's the kind of experience that we want to build. I can't always promise that we get there, and I can't promise that we're going to be bug free, and we ship so much new stuff. You literally are getting a new build a day. You don't realize it. We're changing that code moment to moment, and things break. But it's a live show. It's a live experience. We're all here to have fun in our lives. I want to be able to look back on this 30 years from now and say, that was fucking fun. I really enjoyed that. I loved how awesome that community was, and I can watch those videos back and enjoy it. So thank you guys.
Yeah, as I like to say, Jacob, this is the best two-star IMDb project I've ever worked on as of today. Sorry, it's because the early show, definitely there was a lot of weight. So, but the community's at least 9 or 10 stars. So, we did get a question from Rainimer. Jacob, how do you feel about this project bringing in new people to the fandom?
That's exactly what we wanted, and we got a note from Okamoto-san. We send Konami the sentiment ratings and everything else, and the feedback from you guys. That we literally send screenshots of the chat to Konami, and Okamoto-san said we saw that Ascension was bringing in new people, new fans, people who normally wouldn't play those games. We're quite happy about it, and Konami's been a great company to work with. I think that they did an amazing job with Short Message. I'm super excited for Silent Hill 2 Remake and the other products going on. But they're like us, a team that really cares about it. But look, games are hard to make. They're real hard to make.
I got a really heartwarming mention. So Valkyrie 1 was pretty vocal about they were mentioning they were disabled in the audience, and they were saying the labels were helping them. So, but you'll get that. We'll read that feedback more in detail. Jacob obviously needs some time, and the rest of the team too. But I did want to point this message out, Valkyrie 1, and I was really grateful that you made me the guard. So I'm suspecting this is a cameo. I worked in security and a first responder before I became disabled, so this was big for me. I missed the job, awesome. And I couldn't have asked for more.
That's awesome. That's great. I love those cameos. Were supposed to be one of the most fun things that we did. We had from the earliest pitches, hey, we have a TV show. We need a whole bunch of extras. We're using metahumans. Let's try to get people into the thing. And the problem was that, we're a small team. It's hard to film those things. And you can tell the voice actors are dev voice actors or something else because they don't have Norwegian accents. So it became harder and harder the better the visuals got, because it started to distract from the story, and so we've done less of those over time. But like, that stuff is so fun. Like the ability to go back and be like, that's my character there. I played that role, right? And you don't have to be a professional Hollywood actor or like struggle waiting tables to be able to do it. It was part of the whole vision of how you build an interactive television series. And we went to pitch Konami at this point, close to 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, saying like, this is where the future of entertainment is going. I can't say that we've done it perfectly, and there's a lot of things that I would change if I would do it again, but we are making those improvements for the future series. We're learning from it here, and hopefully we'll learn for future Ascension seasons too, if we ever get to there.
That'd be good. So this is, I'm sharing a quote and then I'll share a question. I'm very sorry for the question. I forgot to note the audience member who did, so apologies to you at home. I usually try. So this is a point, Midnight Toe. I'm planning to write a piece of Ascension 5 months later with both good and bad points, the perspective of having seen all the change that we've seen. Please send that to me or to Jacob. I would love to see it. The customer
we read
support.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
So somebody asked about a physical release of the Ascension show. That's an interesting one, actually.
So we would love to do that. That is Konami's prerogative rather than us. Anything that is physical goods, like these shirts, you'll notice linked to the Konami shop. So if you want a Blu-ray, a vinyl pressing of the soundtrack, anything else, send an email to Konami letting them know. I can forward it to you, but it's actually much more powerful if you write to Konami directly, because they're the guys who are in charge of anything physical related contractually, not us.
Yeah, somebody was saying VHS, which I think would be a great horror film to throw out. But I've seen cassettes for audio. I haven't seen yet a VHS classic release. That'd be interesting.
To be honest, our first 1 or 2 weeks worth of footage would probably look better on VHS than high quality 4K. But you'll experience that all again when you get to What If, because we're going to start back at the original. Like, these are the scenes that we filmed back in August, right before we got used to the pipeline. But I look at the scene last week with Barbara and Aurora and Astrid and Rachel killing that creature. And I was showing that to people at the Game Developer Conference last week, because last week was GDC, and like we were getting jaw-dropping reactions from people because it looks pretty good. I mean, it's never going to be as good as like a $400 million Spider-Man 2 game can spend on their visuals, but I'm damn proud of what the team's been able to accomplish. They've done a great job, and we've gotten the story tighter, right? We made a lot of changes on tightening story, tightening voice acting, tightening these scenes, and focusing on that production quality, and we learned how to do it over the course of time. And we've gotten a lot better there. I don't know what Faith means by the monster is scared in the scene today. I thought that was real weird. I was watching that. I was like, what the monster is scared? The monster with the umbilical cord that wants to kill me is scared?
It just wants a hug. That's all.
Just wants a hug. I bring that up because like that's our opening scene. Is the Entangler going and killing Joy? So I was thinking back to that as we see the Entangler enter that beloved laundromat.
So just time is fine. I'm just because the audience is having a great time, but we should probably. I got some extra points. Somebody asked about the soundtrack on CD. Now I'm a physical CD collector, so I would love that too. But not my call. Trust me, otherwise it'd be a done deal. Now there was a question about like there are some tracks in the show that were not on the official soundtrack release that I don't actually know about.
That's true. So the soundtrack release, we asked Nekoface, so Kevin and Eric, what they wanted to do with the soundtrack, and they curated that playlist. So it is not everything. You are right. I don't know what we do with the stems that they didn't use. We could ask them if they want to produce a bonus one, but CD releases, vinyl releases are all Konami's domain. So and also like the stuff that's on Spotify, everything that you see there, that's Konami in charge of all distribution. The soundtrack rights are all theirs. So you've got to ask them for that.
Yeah, and then there was a request for a more G mask in the merch, but again, we can only whisper that.
That would be a lot of fun. And Eric with the
somebody
more
wants like I was a Silent Hill Ascension cameo T-shirt. Again, we can whisper that.
we debated like having like little printables of your character and stuff like that. But again, we don't have the physical merch right. That's all Konami's domain. So you want that stuff, let them know.
All right. Tell you what, Jacob, it is approaching 10 p.m. our time where we are based. I think we had a good time with the audience. I think they had a good time, right, audience?
Right.
I hope you had a delightful time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's go into our kind of end of show procedure. So again,
sure.
I'm going to recap the story. The story recap is tuning in on Wednesday, so I can tell you more about the story. Honestly, that's probably your best bet. Things are going right. Like both sides, Pennsylvania, Norway, the stories are starting to resemble. You can kind of guess that's where we were going in a way because we show you two locations. They're connected in some way. Now, both families are kind of trying to run away from the monsters taking the town. A lot of fog. And still some kind of mysteries to uncover. Obviously, Astrid and Hagen got to talk for half the night. Very good times. Now, that being said, a lot of action happening kind of on both sides. Some focus on Rachel being kind of Krista's captive. That was a big thing today. So thank you again, Jacob, for being here. For our audience, if you did want to stick around even more, there's puzzles, as always, every time. Our production team's going to put on the next show graphic, which basically 5:40. So the show is every weekday, 6 p.m. Pacific on weekdays, pre-show, 5:40 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then we have a post-show on those days. I can already, without telling you which one, today we actually have the privilege of recording an interview for Friday, which we will air. On Wednesday's post-show, we will let you know who that is with, although you can probably get a hint because we recorded that one. And there was a very good reason to do so. That said, audience, I hope you had I think the audience had a great time. I was actually watching it, and I hope that all of you did have a wonderful time. Jacob, any parting words before we shut this shindig down?
I don't even remember who you did the recording with, so now I'm curious.
I don't want you to spoil it. Like we'll reveal this on Wednesday.
I feel like you told me earlier today, and I'm not remembering, but it was something good. So I'm going to watch Friday also.
It is good. We normally leave times for two takes, but this one was really good from the first. Honestly, it was really heartwarming. It's definitely, I think you'll definitely have a fantastic time at home. And Jacob's now teased. So now I don't even spoil it internally. We'll have to figure that out on Wednesday. We will. But yeah, I think I'm going to shut it down. Jacob, thank you again. Audience, if you're still here, I hope you had a delightful time with us tonight in this kind of marathon post-show. We normally don't do these, but we felt you had a good time. It felt normal to keep going. So we're going to say a big thank you to our production team who have silently been suffering in the back, wondering, when do I get to go off air? So please,
10 p.m. Eastern, baby.
Yeah,
on a Monday.
Make our production team please love them. They've done a fantastic job tonight, holding on to make sure that we all stick around and have a great time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight. Wherever you are around the world, where it was morning, afternoon, evening, or night, I hope you had a delightful day. And unlike our story, free of fog. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Take care. Bye-bye.